How you feeling, Aggies? Are you feeling pretty good this work week? I mean, what's it like to go into the work week knowing that Texas A&M kicked some ass, is progressing, has a trustworthy coaching staff that you know is developing a team and cultivating a culture, and you're going into a bye week where you're going to get a lot more work done? It feels really, really good projecting this team going forward at this moment in time because you're coming off of a signature win for Mike Elko in his sixth game as the head man for Texas A&M. I mean, hats off to this staff. Hats off to the players. You couldn't be more happy for these guys because the fruits of their labor are showing here and now. And they have to understand, and they do, I'm sure, under Coach Elko, that this is all about the work you did in silence. This is all about rolling your sleeves up and going to work every single day, embracing a culture, embracing a coaching staff, embracing so much new in short order to get your trajectory shooting up and skyrocketing. It's a great feeling. Now, we're going to talk about this team. We're going to break down where they were, where they are now, in short order from Notre Dame game to the Missouri game. We're going to talk about some key players that are emerging. Connor Wigman's back, man. I really want to talk about him, obviously. I want to talk about Terry Bussey, who's coming off of his most productive game as an Aggie. I want to talk about this coaching staff, man. I mean, there is just so much to like about what's going on in Aggie land right now. And I think now is the time to kind of reflect because they're going into a bye week. You're coming off that win. You've gone through early trials and tribulations. And now we're here analyzing this team at the midpoint of the season because you got the 6 first games of Mike Elko's year one season under your belt. So we have a bit of a sample size and we have a bit of evidence indicating that I think A&M might have just hit the nail on the head with this coaching hire. So we're going to talk about everything in this video. There's several talking points I want to get to. And in these videos, I usually keep it pretty structured. I think today more so, we're just going to bring up talking points and expand on them. We're going to go through several things throughout this video. We're going to talk about the coaching staff, like I just mentioned. We're going to talk about some key players, some key developments. Obviously, Connor Wigman, Terry Bussey. I want to get into the O-line, which has been just the shining star of the season pretty much the whole year so far. I mean, that's been the strength of the offense every game, and now the other things are coming together. And, of course, we have to talk about this defense. We got to talk about the Nick Scortons, the Will Lees. We got to talk about everything right now, and I just can't wait to do it. It is such a joy to talk about this team this season, to see the week-to-week progression and get what you're hoping for week-to-week so far in short order. But before we get into all that, I would be remiss not to mention the look-ahead factor, the rat poison factor, that's going to be seeping into the equation for Texas A&M football now that you've done something really good at a national stage and are on a bit of a winning streak. We're fans. We talk about this team. Fan is short for fanatic. We're going to hype things up. We're going to romanticize. We're going to partake in some hyperbole. We're going to have fun. And we're going to talk about things that this team cannot think about. We're going to talk about season trajectory. We're going to talk about the rest of season. We're going to reflect backwards and kind of think about what you've done so far. Now, we as fans can get into this because we're just here sitting on the sidelines, sitting on the couch. We need to be clear that what is so important for this team right now, and I fully trust Tommy Moffitt, Coach Elko, this whole staff to lock this team in, but they got to focus on the work right now. They got a bye week. They got 2 weeks of work and labor to get better, to get healthy, and to get clicking going into the meat of your SEC schedule. But it's a great time to think about everything as fans. So guys, thanks for being here. Like and subscribe. I'm going to keep making videos from now till the end of time, till the end of my days. Jump on. It's a great ride. I enjoy interacting with you guys. So I want to hear from you. I want to hear your reflection to this point in the year, your thoughts coming out of this Missouri game. I want to hear everything that you have to say. So make sure you guys get in the comments, like and subscribe. I appreciate all of you guys for being here. So let's kind of recap the season and kind of talk about the arc that this team is on right now. Because obviously you started with Notre Dame. You started with some tough times. You got clips of the team walking off Kyle Field very dejected, very down after, all the new coaching hype, the excitement of a new season, and obviously going into game one with a bit of a gut punch, a bit of a realization that, hey, we're not playing to the level we need to play at to get to where we want to go. In that game one, we saw a bad quarterback performance. We saw the team's inability to find a running game. We saw receivers' inability to consistently get open. We saw a defense that gave up too many explosive plays that really defined the game on that side of the ball. We saw a team that didn't perform to their best in the home stretch of that game, the last 6 minutes or so of that fourth quarter. It wasn't great, and it left us kind of feeling uneasy. A lot of us had us winning that game. A lot of us had us defending home turf in game one of the season. And a lot of us had us setting the stage for a hell of a year, at least maybe to, exceed expectations in year one under Mike Elko. A lot of us felt that way. A lot of us acknowledged that was a losable game, but we had some high hopes, and it didn't work out. The next week, you followed up with the McNeese game, and I would argue that game went pretty much according to plan as long as the ones were out there. But it's McNeese. How much can you take from it? You move on from that. You find out about Connor Wigman's new shoulder injury leading into the next Florida game. And that was very nerve-wracking. We knew Connor wasn't himself just yet, and it's like, okay, maybe he can get back into form, got some good reps under his belt versus McNeese, but now he's going to be missing Florida? And then what? Is he going to be out for a while? And it turns out he was. Marcel Reed goes in, and I would argue he had a pretty good game versus Florida, especially in that first half. Offense ran the ball with conviction, ran the ball really, really well, found some explosive plays, but you didn't finish that game very well. And some of those open field defensive blunders, taking the bait on some play action, that stuff really seeped in down the stretch of that game. So yeah, we felt good coming out of that game, but obviously you still had a ton of question marks because we didn't really know what to take of a Florida team, winning a game versus a Florida team who was struggling. Florida's actually railed off a couple of good wins since then, which is good to see for Texas A&M. But you felt good, but not good enough. Still early days. You're okay. You have time. You had Bowling Green the next week, a game that maybe you could get right in. And now I would argue that what happened in that Bowling Green game is really what kept fans uneasy, and that was the perception of that game was somewhat dominating the overall perception of the team and the overall feel of the team. Obviously, couldn't find a passing game consistently. You couldn't get receivers involved consistently. You ran pretty good, but you started slow in the running game. First quarter, a lot of offensive line blunders. You finished pretty strong, but without a passing game, it really wasn't enough for A&M to be dominant in the game. And defensively, too many busts. That back seven had a kind of, what's the word? It was a realization for me as a fan watching that this is a back seven that truly is a new group. Guys like Bryce Anderson, Torian York, been here for a while, played a bit, but under Jay Bateman, not under Coach Mike Elko, not under those expectations and that scheme and those ideologies. But on top of that, that back seven is made up of a lot of transfers and guys coming into their first college ball. And I think that really showed in that game. It showed that this is not a finished product, even though we were very excited about this defense. So you saw busts, you saw communication issues, you saw play recognition issues, you saw tackling angle issues, but you survived the game. You did what you had to do to win that game. You moved on. And maybe Bowling Green's a pretty good team. Regardless, I would argue you didn't play up to your standard after feeling pretty good after Florida. So we were still uneasy. The Arkansas game, always an anxiety-riddled game. That's just how it is. We've talked about it a lot. That game is always crazy. That game is always competitive. Both teams really want to win that game. In that Jerry World stage, it brings the best out of both teams. Close game. You gave up big, scary plays early in that game. The fake punt and the explosive touchdown. But you once again buckled in, leaned on that offensive line down the stretch of that game to win. But again, inconsistent passing game. You know, Marcel Reed kind of bust onto the scene versus Florida, but it kind of made you quickly realize that we would much rather have a seasoned quarterback than a guy working through things game to game at a higher degree than maybe the rest of the team, who was also working through just becoming a team under Mike Elko and the new staff. So you kind of took a step back in that quarterback room because Connor was taking all the reps with the ones in this new staff, under this new program. And Marcel Reed goes in. He's been the backup the whole time since spring. So there was going to be a huge learning curve there. That would have put us back behind the 8 ball if he had to keep playing, in my opinion. Now, Marcel Reed is great. Let's take time to talk about him real quick right now. Hope you're buckled in. This is going to be a longer video. We're going to go through a lot of different things in this video, but we're starting with kind of rehashing to getting where we are. Marcel Reed, tip of the hat to him. He kept this season alive. And if you look back on maybe a somewhat successful year, maybe you feel good about your year, you have to tip your hat to him. You have to thank Marcel Reed for keeping this team alive, because a lesser quarterback would have dropped a couple of those games, because Bowling Green and Arkansas were very close, competitive, losable games. But the quarterback didn't make the big mistakes. And Marcel Reed did a really good job of just getting this offense in and out of plays and managing the team. Those two areas, and his poise and his toughness, all that stuff was great for Marcel. Now, obviously, just a ways to go in the passing department, a ways to go reading a defense, a ways to go progressing through reads and just being a textbook quarterback. But a lot of really good stuff from Marcel Reed. And now he has those reps under his belt. And he got through that Arkansas game. He survived Bowling Green. He had a good game versus Florida. That brings us to this most recent game. Rumblings all week that Connor was practicing, that maybe this is the week Connor comes back. And that was met with a lot of controversy. A lot of people wanted to see Marcel Reed just kind of take the helm and keep it, because he had won 3 games. But I was convinced that this team just really needed a passing game and that we just needed to try Connor Wigman if he was indeed 100%. And they ended up doing that versus Missouri. Now, some of the stuff you saw leading into this game: no passing game, busts in the back 7, inconsistency at times running the ball. Even though you felt really good about your running game, for the last 2 games, it had stalled at portions of the game. At the beginning of that Bowling Green game, you couldn't really run. In the middle of that Arkansas game, you couldn't really run. The D-line had been solid the whole year, but it really only became extremely disruptive versus Arkansas, and that had to do with schematics as well. But they were getting better and better, and it finally all totally came together versus Missouri. For that D-line, for the passing game with Connor Wigman, for the receiver group making big plays, for the back 7 doing their job, for the team's overall consistency and attitude and finishing a game. It's like a beautiful crescendo going into the midpoint of the year, right? I mean, they say success is not linear, and it wasn't, because you had your setbacks versus Bowling Green. You didn't play up to your capabilities versus Arkansas offensively. So yeah, maybe you felt pretty good coming out of that Florida game. Maybe things kind of staggered, Bowling Green, Arkansas, and then you're back on track versus Missouri, but you're exceeding that track. You're even above now. So when you zoom out on this trajectory now, for 6 games, improvement has looked pretty damn linear. It's been a pretty direct shot to improvement over 6 games. And that is such a testament to this coaching staff. All that to say that this coaching staff is doing really well. All that rehashing, all that going through the season so far, just to say that I think the analysis point going into the year, that yes, you're in a year 1 staff, but the overall improvement of the staff would net out for a positive of this for this team, because obviously there's newness and that can bring you back a peg, but we thought we were upgrading at such a significant margin, at least I did, that it would net out positive. I don't think I expected it to look good this early as a full unit, to get this much improvement game to game, not directly, but overall 6 games in. Let's start with Adam Cushing. This offensive line has been the strength of this offense every game this season. And it hasn't been perfect every game, but relatively speaking, it's been the piece you hang your hat on. And they maybe just played their best game versus Missouri, and it wasn't a perfect game. They still had a couple of run blocking moments where, guys were getting through. Who plays a fully perfect game, really? But as far as quarterback protection, run blocking as a whole, toughness, getting a hat on a hat consistently, sticking to your assignments consistently. I mean, can you believe this is largely the same O-line that we had watched the last 2 seasons? Can you believe it's the same group? I mean, just saying that is such a testament to Adam Cushing, because he had one offseason cycle to right this ship. Every year for the last 3 years, O-line held us back. O-line did not let this offense be what it wanted to be. In this year, quite on the contrary to that, it's been the stabilizing force. It's been what you can lean on and buy you time developing in other areas. On top of that, Coach Trooper Taylor, man, is like the hype man of this team right now. Do you see the huddles after offensive drives, after offensive touchdowns? Somebody light me up. Boom. That's Trooper Taylor in there. Obviously coaching the running backs really well. We'll get to that in just a second. But just bringing this team together, this offense together as a cohesive, bought in, together group. Trooper Taylor's been a beast for this team. Look at Le'Veon Moss's improvement. Vision wasn't necessarily his strength the last couple of years. He had raw talent. He had underrated speed. He had undeniable running power. But this year, he's added patience. He's added vision. And you have to have that if you're going to be an elite running back. And he's found it quickly under this new staff with a good offensive line. Everything is working hand in hand in that running game right now. Tight ends, they're improving as well. The tight end blocking this game was really, really good. And that has been something we've highlighted as a negative early in this year. Quarterback play. I mean, we're going to talk about Connor Wigman right now. We're going to get into this. So Connor Wigman comes back, man. How were you feeling about that decision at the time? I mean, I know this was a kind of a line in the sand talking point or opinion. I was of the opinion that Connor needed to play just because, yes, Reed brought you that extra dynamic of running, but this offense was so run reliant that I think you were getting major diminishing returns there. On top of that, still very long ways to go in the passing game under Marcel. Connor comes in. I mean, we talked about it already. I'll go through it briefly. He was poised. He was calm. He was unimpressed in the game. He just progressed through his reads, showed great patience, showed great footwork, showed great mechanics, and was just a surgeon versus Missouri. Hitting players in the soft spots of zone. And in those zone coverages, not locking on to certain receivers, but scanning the field. Scanning the field every time he saw a zone defense. First of all, progressing through his reads. But second of all, not telling where he's going with the ball, because in a zone defense, they're reading your eyes. They see you locked down on Noah Thomas. The window that was there might quickly go away, and that could quickly become a troubling ball into tight windows if you're staring guys down. We saw Connor not only back to form, but maybe the best he's ever looked in this game. The shoulder healed. I would imagine time on the sideline, watching this team, understanding what the team's trying to accomplish, understanding what the team needs, also helped him between the ears. I have to imagine that, considering how good he looked this game, especially compared to what we saw in game one, which just wasn't him. I mean, he's back, folks. Connor's back and is such a weapon. While we're on this topic of the offense, let's get into Colin Klein. Colin Klein was getting not a ton, but a fair amount of criticism. But the weird thing is, people were talking about how Colin Klein needed a running quarterback. How, Marcel Reed is a much more Colin Klein friendly player. That's much more in his wheelhouse. That's what he's used before. That's the style of player he was. Colin Klein likes to have a running quarterback in his scheme. He builds off of quarterback run. I think we underrated Colin Klein in that dialogue. Colin Klein obviously built this offense around a passing quarterback, a Connor Wigman style quarterback. And Connor Wigman can scramble, guys. It's basically like his sixth read of his drop back passing progression. It's not like he's this explosive game-breaking scrambler, but it's essentially like a fifth or sixth receiver out there for him. He understands when to scramble. He has underrated straightaway speed, and he uses it when he has to. Man defense, they turn their back to him. He's going to run for a first down. Zone defense, they back too far away from the pocket. They back too far away from the line of scrimmage. He's going to take those 7 yards. That's a weapon in his belt. So I didn't like the narrative that you had a sitting duck quarterback. I don't think a lot of Aggies were partaking in that narrative. I think that was more of a national thing. But that's absolutely in his wheelhouse and his arsenal. It's very much a professional quarterback's build. It's like you're not going to go out there and put yourself in harm's way, though he needs to learn how to slide, because you put yourself in harm's way even if you're taking these safer runs. If you're not sliding, they become dangerous. But it's just another weapon in his arsenal. So Colin Klein had this thing ready for Connor Wigman. And obviously it showed versus Missouri that he was ready to trust these receivers in their route trees, trust a quarterback to progress through reads, trust receivers to make plays, because that's what Connor Wigman can do. And he was ready for that. And you have a great running back stable behind that to really make yourself a balanced offense. Last thing on the offense, receivers. A lot of flack they've gotten from national to Aggie talkers. Receivers weren't getting separation. Receivers weren't explosive. Receivers weren't athletic. We didn't have dogs out there. We didn't have the troops out there. I maintain that they were getting separation, but I also acknowledge that it might not be the most elite group. I was still high on the group. This is a pretty damn good receiver group, guys. Noah Thomas becoming that wide receiver one player, build, skill set that we've always felt he had in the chamber since 2 springs ago when he was spring MVP. Had some good moments late in 2022. Had a very, tough season last year for a plethora of reasons, personal and injury-wise, and team-wise. I mean, the contested grabs, the back shoulder stuff. Connor can throw the ball before he's looking, and Noah Thomas will come down with that ball after he makes the cut in his routes. Terry Bussey's coming on, guys. Let's take a minute to talk about Terry Bussey. Terry Bussey, after watching the film this game, his most productive game, top to bottom, he's a little things guy. Yeah, he's a raw talent. Yeah, he can play a bunch of different positions. Yeah, he has a very diverse skill set. But even within that, this kid is doing the little minute things that don't show up in stat sheets, like prying the ball out on that bad ball by Connor that was an interception. He turns on the DB hat, blink of an eye, jars that ball loose. Blocking downfield on screen plays, finishing blocks, not just getting a body in front of guys, not just sealing guys off, but pushing guys back through the whistle. In his routes, he's coming back to balls. He's helping the quarterback out as a true freshman who wasn't a receiver before. He was a quarterback in a corner in high school. He's doing little things, man. He's a north-south runner, vertical runner, whatever you want to call it. On that play late in the game where it was a wheel route, he could have tried to dance around to get extra yardage. But that can sometimes leave you with less yardage if you're unsuccessful in your dancing. In this play I'm thinking about, he just turns the jets on, gets 20 extra yards. He's just a very, very savvy, nuanced player for his age. And I just can't wait to see what he becomes. Leading receiver in yardage this game. Bunch of great grabs, ran between the tackles. He can do a lot of things for this team, man. A lot of things within his role. Oh, and as a punt returner, not returning punts for touchdowns or big plays, but super, super sound in his decision-making, which, again, just a little things kind of thing. Little thing. He's doing that stuff, man. And he's only going to get better and better. Ja'Day Walker ran some great routes this game. Had that huge contested grab. Jabri Barber now coming into form, and I love how this offense is targeting him in space. They did it for Jabri. They did it for Moose a couple times. This offense knows what it is right now. It's a very complimentary offense. They pass to set up the run. No, they run to set up the pass. But this game, the threat of the pass even opened up the run more. Very complimentary. Just a very complete offense that we saw versus Missouri. What a improvement we've seen week to week. And now getting the cherry on top with Connor Wigman. Really just the key in the lock of this offense. And it's unlocked and it's open right now. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. Give me your thoughts on the offense, guys. I guess we should flip over to defense now. Been a relative strength of the team all year. But even in that margin, it's improving. Defensive line is disgusting. I mean, We said it last week versus Arkansas. What are you doing running the zone read against Nick Scorton, man? What are you doing? I mean, yeah, high risk, high reward, right? You can read him out of the play. But good luck doing that. 2 games in a row, he's blowing up zone reads. And in this game, he baited the quarterback into the keeper. And he knew what he was doing. If you remember the play I'm thinking about, it was a zone read. Scorton was the read guy. Scorton kind of angles like he's going to the running back read. But his hips are ready to switch right onto that quarterback. Brady Cook keeps it. Huge tackle for loss. Oh, and he just wins his one-on-one matchups all the time. Oh, and they have to allocate a chip blocker to him every play. I mean, Nick Scorton has been as advertised to the T. And how often can you say that about an incoming player? It's not often players just play to their expectations, like to the T. And Nick Scorton has done just that. The rest of this D-line is really good. I would say the unsung hero of this D-line is Albert Regis. I mean, we talked about in this offseason how you maybe don't have someone to fully replicate McKinley Jackson. And while I don't know if Regis has that pop that McKinley does, he makes up for it with his speed, man. I mean, Albert Regis has some wheels at his size. He's involved in a ton of plays. And he's not the big name that you got in the Shamars and Scorton, but he's in there most plays. Huge stuff we're getting from Albert Regis. Shamar Stewart continues to impress and be a menace, although he's not getting all the tackles. He is collapsing pockets. He is making a mess of things, and he has had his fair share of big plays. I think this was the best game for the backup D tackles, and that was an area I like to highlight early in the year, as maybe we got a little bit of a drop-off when Regis and Turner weren't in the game. Hicks got his first sack versus Missouri, and Rodas Johnson had a solo sack versus Missouri. These guys are starting to get better and better. And I've seen some stuff from Rodas the last few games, culminating in his sack performance versus Missouri. The D-line has been on the cleanest trajectory on the team, I would say. I would say that's the one position group, all 6 games, you got more and more and more every single game going forward. There were 20 quarterback hurries versus Missouri. 6 sacks. Insane defensive line performance. Oh, and 68 total rushing yards. Will Lee, the blanket. The man who you might have thought left a blanket on Theo Weiss's bedtime bed in the hotel in College Station wasn't him. Did that give Theo Weiss the advantage, the edge in the game? No. The blanket was everywhere this game. The blanket was targeted 6 times, I think. 0 completions. And maybe one of those could have been a completion. Maybe that defensive PI early in the game could have been called a PI and not waved off. But even on top of that, even including that, what a game from Will Lee, man. What a player he's been all year. When's the last time he had a lockdown corner like this? Is he better than Jalen Jones was at A&M? I don't know about all that. But he's on that level right now. You have a lockdown guy. And think about where we were last year where you couldn't find a single guy that was a lockdown guy. And then you had maybe 2 guys that were serviceable. And anytime one of them went down, you were screwed. Because you also have Javen Thomas playing well. And you have Des Ricks coming on. Safety group has been fantastic. Dalton Brooks and Marcus Radcliffe, so productive in the run game. There was an issue, sideline to sideline stuff early in the season. Notre Dame, even McNeese at times, Bowling Green. But these last 2 games, they have dominated kind of that outside margin, the flat, that area, by way of just good safety and DB defense. Playing very sound. Playing very, very well in run defense. Dalton Brooks, 2 games in a row leading tackler for the team. Dalton Brooks is going to be a star if he's not already. Marcus Radcliffe, he's been very productive all season. Just a big, menacing safety. Both of them, really. I mean, what a safety group. And you have Bryce Anderson coming in on 3rd downs and off the bench. Bryce Anderson's your bench guy right now. It's an incredible safety group. Now, obviously, one area we're going to keep watching is nickel. We've still seen some inconsistency there. Obviously, you expect to have Tyreek Chappelle there. Not the case. BJ Mays coming on. Jaden Hill, still kind of inconsistent, man. He got burned on that Luther Burden touchdown that got called back due to an O-lineman downfield, which really had nothing to do with the play, just a formality to run that thing back. Still looking out there. But I think your DB group overall is so productive such that you still look at that as a positive group, even with the nickel questions we have right now. Linebackers are getting better and better. And in this game, we saw Damian Sanford just continue to improve. I mean, he's been so good, so athletic, such a good tackler. Scooby Williams, same thing, man. Both of those guys are really, really getting better. And we saw several looks this game where it was Scooby and Sanford as your two linebackers. York, really good leader, really good extension of the coaching staff on the field. But there are situations in the game where you just want raw speed out there, raw athleticism. And I think those two guys give you that. Now, Torrin York did have his sack this game. I think that was his only tackle in the game, though. York, what he brings is invaluable. But sometimes, like I said, you just need that athleticism out there. And Scooby and Sanford are playing really, really well. A lot of positive this video, guys. We're going through a lot of positives right now. I know it's rat poison, right? Don't watch this video, team. If you're out there, do not watch this. But we're reflecting on it now. All right, now that we've kind of gone through every position on the team where they are right now. Oh, and Tyler White, what a beast. What a beast. That's all I'll say. I would like to talk about Coach Elko and what he's done for this team. Think about who he's played this year. Billy Napier in a year 3. Sam Pittman in a year 5 or 6. Eli Drinkowitz in a year 5. Marcus Freeman in a year 3, and that was a loss, but outside of that one game, the year 1 team has looked like the better coached team in all 3 of those games. Mizzou, Florida, Arkansas. The more disciplined team, less turnover prone team, more sound team, and better in the trenches, which is a staple of Mike Elko. And a staple of, just this D-line and the bodies you have there. But it's come together so quickly, man. I think we felt good about the long-term arc of Mike Elko and the staff he's built. We felt good about long-term development. But for him to flip the script so quickly, and to where by game 6 you feel like you've almost fully overcome your deficiencies, that's an incredible testament to Elko, man. I mean, the culture, if anything, is far above schedule. I mean, maybe there's a lot more to go on this year and you can lose more games. For sure, that's the case. But as far as the team just buying into the Mike Elko identity, it's kind of incredible where you are right now. It's kind of incredible that this team is already kind of what it wants to be if you're able to sustain what you did versus Missouri and where you are now. Huge. All right, let's talk about what's to come. Let's talk about kind of future implications. Let me just check my notes and make sure I didn't miss any group I wanted to talk about. We talked about Moss. I mean, just vision is there now. That's the big difference, vision and patience. Trenches, I mean, the strength of the team. The team is built from the big guys out, and that's been a strength every game. Now everything else is coming together. We talked about that. We talked about the DBs, talked about Will Lee, safeties covering the flats, run defense. Some were calling it a weakness just 3 weeks ago. I mean, you've given up 68 yards to one of the top 3 backs in the SEC and Nate Noel. I think he was top 3 or top 5. Then you gave up like 100 yards to 2 top 7 rushing players in the league, in Taylon Green, in Jaquindon Jackson the week before. I mean, run defense has totally come on, and that was scary after the Notre Dame game. I mean, what a difference, man, so quickly. Just a well-coached program. Yeah, future implications of the year. Obviously, A&M's going to get playoff talks now because of their schedule, because of where they are right now, because of their most recent game, because of Mike Elko's trajectory with this team. I mean, you just got to attack this bye week and take it one game at a time, man. You got to go out there and handle Mississippi State. You still can't afford to let up any game. You still got to bring that week-to-week improvement every game. I want to see Connor Wigman go out there and play even better versus Mississippi State. I mean, he had a couple of bad balls in the game. He had one ball in the dirt. He might have gotten hit on that play. He had a bad ball to Bussey. I mean, can you get better? 82% passing in the game. I mean, find the inches. Find the inches. Get better, man. Get better. Keep getting better everywhere. Receiver group. I mean, they had a good game, but they can't let up. Offensive line, going to keep getting better. You're going to get healthy this week. Maybe you'll get Shanahan back over this break. That'd be huge for this offensive line. Again, it doesn't really matter who you're throwing out there on this offensive line. Everyone's playing pretty well. Even Dewberry, who had some struggles in his first few reps of the season, he's getting a lot better. Adam Cushing, man. Back 7 needs to keep improving. That is still a relatively new group together. But can you beat Mississippi State and then make it to an LSU game at home where you once again will have similar storylines as the Missouri game this last week? That's if LSU can survive 2 tough games before A&M. I think they play Ole Miss and another tough team. I mean, you have everything to play for right now. You control your own destiny. I mean, imagine playing Texas at the end of the year and you have 1 or 2 losses under your belt. You got to get there. But that's all about the week to week. It's all about the game to game. Man, I want to keep talking, but I don't want this video to keep going forever. I don't even know where we're at right now, but I just want to hear your thoughts, man. I couldn't be more proud of this team. I couldn't be more proud of the players, the staff, the 12th man just showing out on Saturday. They were challenged. They rose to the occasion. They were trolling Brady Cook. What a feel-good afternoon in College Station. So, guys, with that, just give me your thoughts. Tell me everything you want to say about this. I'm going to go live Monday night. I knew I said I wasn't going to, but I will be able to go live Monday night for a call-in show. And then I'll probably be pretty quiet this week. I'll take a little bit of a break during the bye week, and then we'll get back after it, Mississippi State week, get right back into Aggie football. What a team, man. What a performance. We're going to ride this high for the next few days. Enjoy it. The season's going to be done quickly. We're already halfway through. Take every game as a movie, man. Enjoy it. I'll see you in the next one. Gig 'em.